Welcome to Let's Get Defensive, the show where we talk about recent news in aerospace and defense, the benefits of having a good PLM strategy, and debate which area is most important for each project.
So, not for the 15th week in a row, we're not doing the same joke?
Well, we wanted to give you something to be thankful for this week.
It is Thanksgiving, after all.
So coming up, AeroVironment, Blue Origin, AST Space Mobile, Oshkosh Defense, Spirit Aerosystems, Tex Tech Industries, DSS, Lockheed Martin, Military Metals, Nucor, Northrop Grumman, Intelsat, Optus, Japan's FAST project. You know what? A lot of stuff here. Let's just dive in.
Let's just jump into it. That's right. AeroVironment is rolling out software upgrades for its Puma 3 AE and Puma LE unmanned aerial systems, making them better equipped for hostile and GPS-denied environments. Now, these upgrades are including Assured Position Navigation and Timing, APNT, ensuring that the drones are actually staying on course even when GPS signals are blocked, spoofed, jammed. High-performance visual navigation is going to help these drones detecting and rejecting spoofing attempts, bolstering security, accuracy during missions. Look at that. I mean, 60% increase in payload capacity. The drones can now carry more advanced gear to handle multiple missions at once. And then the LE is actually now boasting a 6.5-hour flight time covering 60 kilometers. So long-range surveillance, reconnaissance is going to be helpful. I mean, enhanced communication.
Yep. Guys, there's a lot going on here, but let's be honest, the biggest challenge for me on this one has got to be that whole GPS spoofing. That is the challenge. Why? Because drones are basically sitting ducks if they're spoofed. I mean, you're creating this stealthy little ninja drone, but if they're spoofed, they're going to end up being like a kind of clueless tourist wandering around the place with nowhere to go and not knowing where they're going.
You know, I did not have Andrew saying stealthy little ninja on my bingo card for the show today.
No.
You know, we've seen this kind of approach with phones, with electric cars, with software being deployed to enhance the functionality, to fix bugs. Mm-hmm. And in this case, the software is going to help the drones, you know, in the challenging electromagnetic environments where when the signal is lost, the directions from the home base could be inflicted with problems intentionally or environmentally. But now these things are going to be able to work autonomously on a critical task, assuming all goes well. So anyone that has a computer at home can tell you that sometimes upgrades don't go quite as planned. They have unplanned consequences. So for this, I don't know if my number one is requirements or testing being number one, but I think I'm going to say the best place to focus, number one here, is just the testing of all of this, all these upgrades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, testing's crucial, no doubt about it. But even kind of flawless code cannot help when the environment is attacking you. GPS spoofing and jamming are going to redefine the battlefield, and navigation resilience is what's going to save the day. So it's really about that. So without a resilient navigation system, these drones are going to risk going off course or worse, ending up in enemies' hands. So it's pretty contested environment they're operating in. So losing your bearings is basically losing the mission. So preventing those gaps in capability alignment is going to be crucial.
I don't know, Andrew. I mean, I think that this software upgrade is going to be able to help with a lot of the attacks you just talked about, the autonomous capabilities, the extra navigation methods. This upgrade is doing a lot. I mean, every area of the drone functionality seems to be being upgraded. The visual navigation, the enhanced security, somehow a 60% increase in payload. I mean, if you can make it carry more with a software upgrade, imagine what else you can do with this. So I think, you know, I don't know. My phone's never gotten lighter from a software upgrade, but hey, something's going on fancy here. So props to creating something that was future-proofed in a way that allows for these kind of upgrades. I think the entire process here is actually highlighting that the testing needs are of utmost importance, not just, say, in a lab, not just in a specific environment, but real-time testing against whatever is thrown the drone's way, whether it's in nature, whether it's enemy attacks like you're talking about. And the only way for that to work correctly is to know those requirements you're trying to meet and have those play hand in hand with your testing.
Yeah, I think that's where we come together. I think the solution is common, isn't it, really, to this one? It's that requirements traceability stuff. So the trace system requirements on this for anti-spoofing, knowing what's coming in, payload demands back to the core mission profiles and the design specs. For me, that's the solution here, requirement traceability. And if I'm going to bring some AI in over the top of that, AI to dynamically analyze, to validate, and to prioritize the mission requirements against environmental risks. So the AI tools can detect gaps in requirements and flag those areas for change early on, and therefore kind of reduce that missed functionality.
I did not see AI coming into play from Andrew today. Like, I just didn't think he'd ever gone.
Never.
AI
No.
I might miss a couple for you, especially.
Yeah. Well, we'll see when that actually happens. AST Space Mobile has chosen Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket for a multi-launch agreement to send its next-gen Block 2 Bluebird satellites into low Earth orbit. The satellites are aiming to build the first space-based cellular broadband network, allowing smartphones to switch seamlessly between terrestrial and satellite signals, which I know that there's functionality headed that direction, but this is kind of cool. And then, of course, New Glenn's 7-meter fairing can carry twice the payload of most commercial systems, which makes it perfect for deploying these multiple satellites in a single launch. Their first stage is reusable for at least 25 missions. New Glenn's first stage, powered by 7 BE-4 engines. I know they're working through the testing on it.
Here you're really talking about like two projects, kind of. I mean, you've got one that's the rocket with that first stage that's designed for at least 25 missions, that was powered by liquefied natural gas and that huge payload. I mean, that's really cool. But the other project here is using that rocket, right, to launch the satellites to create the first and only that I know of space-based cellular broadband network designed for commercial and government applications. With that seamless switching between switching between the terrestrial cell towers and those satellites, which I think is really cool. So for that, I mean, this idea is cool, but I think the hurdles of figuring out how to do that seamless integration between orbiting satellites and terrestrial towers while maintaining the broadband speeds, that sounds like the challenge here.
Science, technology is trumped, in my opinion, by politics on this one. Forgive the pun.
Well done. Yeah, I'm proud.
I think, Bryan, you're overthinking this integration piece, honestly. The real challenge here isn't the satellites or the rockets. It's actually the cell phone companies working together, seamlessly switching or swatching, depends on what you've been drinking today. Only if they stop fighting over who owns the signal will it be seamless. The arguments over roaming charges coming in, the whole system is just going to fall apart, and over whose logo shows up on the bars, in my opinion. Politics.
Andrew, I still think it's integration, because that seamless switching is from just the technology of getting the switch from the mobile tower to the satellite without anything changing on the user end from what they're realizing. I still think that technical challenge, even if it's done all within the same network, before you even start talking with playing nicely with other companies, I think that's the first thing to look at, is making sure that works correctly. And then these mobile tower squabbles on the terrestrial side, if the tech works correctly, I think you might find folks wanting to play nice to use it, because then they can claim they've got more coverage everywhere.
Yeah, fair point. But at least satellites ain't going to get stuck in rush hour. I'd still put my money on telecom execs derailing this faster than a bad GPS signal in a canyon. Look, the tech hurdles are pretty tough. There's no doubt about it. But agreements between the providers are the real wild card on this one. So seamlessly switching, it's not just engineering. It's really corporate diplomacy. It's corporate politics that's in play, I think, on this one.
Well, signal aligning is important, and we've learned this from ET, from Ghostbusters. Wait, no, that was about the signals not crossing. But anyway, for me, the way to ensure that all of this compatibility and seamless integration between the signals, between space and Earth, and between companies goes back to having a correct set of requirements nailed down for this integration between them. So with that in mind, what's your solution?
Supply chain. It kind of takes care of both your techie integration stuff and making sure everybody's linked up. So I'm going in with supply chain management integration. It's about building a supply chain that's going to coordinate across space and Earth. Seamless integration starts by linking up your manufacturing, your launch schedules, and operations into a unified thread. And then supply chain management integration is going to tie all of those moving parts together, literally. So that's the solution. And I'm not even going to mention AI because you upset me on the last one.
Wow.
Great. Go to the next article.
Yeah, wow. Okay. All right. I'm going to do it. We'll see if he holds to it. Oshkosh Defense showcased its Rogue Fires unmanned joint light tactical vehicle at AUSA 24, blending high mobility with cutting edge autonomy. Now, the Rogue Fire system can handle everything from launching rockets to hauling supplies as an autonomous logistics vehicle. I mean, there's been a lot of work in this sector, I guess, recently, but each vehicle featuring a swappable payload modules, missile launchers, cargo beds, artillery setups, all interchangeable on the same chassis. The updated leader-follower system lets one operator control multiple vehicles, complete with waypoint navigation, advanced obstacle avoidance. And then, of course, while the Marines are using it for shoot and scoot operations with long-range missiles, the Army is looking at it for resupply missions in contested zones, 6,000-pound payload capacity, designed to resupply troops at the forward edge of battle without risking human drivers.
All right, I'm just gonna jump on. I'm gonna jump on the truck here because robot trucks driving around with missiles strapped to their backs. I mean, that's not a thing in Nightmares at all, right?
Better than the Toyota Hilux.
Well, that's true.
One was being driven with people drivers still. This is
without training,
right? So this is just the computers driving around. This is a thing of nightmares or of dreams, or just the sci-fi world. But one interesting bit of this evolution is that the Marine Corps actually entered into a low-rate initial production deal with Oshkosh in 2023 that permitted them to produce some of these unmanned Rogue Fires on the same production line as their traditional family of vehicles. From a manufacturing side of point, that's pretty cool from that line, because that would be both a cost saving, but also a logistically challenging effort. And building on what we just talked about with the software updates in these previous articles earlier, the Rogue Fires is undergoing an update right now to improve their autonomy with that leader follower control system Greg was talking about. Yeah. And this system is going to basically, allow for the operation of many of these with just one Marine in control, which is pretty cool about what's going on there. This update is going to have the waypoint navigation for the Rogue Fires family. The most important area, I think, is future proofing and upgrades through the software updates. There's a lot of interest and focus on the weapons capabilities, figuring out how that integrates with routing and software, autonomous tasks, the safety involved. We're not just talking about, one of those Waymo autonomous things driving around here.
Greg, are you on fire?
I might be. Yeah. Do I need to make sure? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It feels
Somebody should tell you.
It feels good.
So Greg, Bryan, what is your number one? What is it exactly? It's future proofing for upgrades, is it? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key, because the software is what's going to let you make sure these things, being able to take software upgrades, is going to be able to makes this very effective when new and interesting situations pop up, new functionality is needed, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. For me, it's a little bit before that. I think it's the idea of autonomous battlefield logistics. It's one thing having, your autonomous vehicles on your highways, which everybody's getting spooked over anyway. It's another navigating congested zones, avoiding enemy fire, and making it to the last mile delivery stuff that I know you were talking about, Greg. So there's that ain't really an Uber ride, is it? So let's face it, if these things get stuck in the mud, I doubt you say, "Hey Siri, can you get me out of here?"
I think that they're designing these to be able to handle.
She probably doesn't even know who
you are,
Siri.
Being stuck in the mud, all those issues. Not Siri, but just the software integration here, because this is a software challenge. Even though we're talking about the hardware that's going to be doing the job, let's face it, driving around is something that has been happening for years. Having a computer do that for you, that's the new thing. Having software requirements figured out of what this has to do, what's going to need to happen to make this software function correctly with now and future, that's what's going to drive this entire project to success.
I get it. But But imagine being the Marine responsible for the waypoint navigation, who's now also expected to dodge missiles. Forget sci-fi. This is sci stress, in my opinion. Autonomy is great, but contested zones don't forgive any glitches at all. And when logistics are going to fail, the mission just crumbles. So you could prioritize, whatever I'm going to say. I don't know. I've lost it. Is it Tuesday morning? What's my name?
It is.
Prioritizing robust, flexible logistics autonomy is the real battlefield enabler here.
I think you just accidentally agreed with me. The only way to get that robust, flexible logistics autonomy is to have nailed down the software through the requirements of what it's got to do. So driving and firing are automated, but fortunately, currently, there's no plan to provide an autonomous or unmanned reloading system, so we can at least, keep the computers in check that way.
Yeah, I'm good with the requirements, but it also adds to that with kind of process and workflow optimization. These vehicles have got to be able to adapt in dynamic battlefield needs. So standardized yet flexible processes enabled by robust digital workflows. So critical threat, in other words, ensure you've got smooth integration of modular payloads, you've got autonomous tasks, you've got mission-specific adjustments. So for me, it's that process and workflow optimization that leaves no one guessing in the field. And I will bring in some AI.
Of course.
Of course. Predictive analytics, machine learning is going to make sure you've got smooth execution by flagging bottlenecks in production, any task delays you've got there, or misaligned priorities before they become really critical.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad you brought in AI, but I want to move on to our next article, which I think is my favorite article this week. So Britain's laser weapon called Dragonfire costs less than a round of drinks. The Dragonfire laser system that can target drones and missiles with the accuracy, get this, accuracy to hit a 1 pound coin from over a mile away. Guys, that's just over 2 centimeters. Like that's tiny. And at just 10 pounds per shot, which is what, 14 US per shot. Dragonfire is a bargain compared to traditional missile systems, cost-effective option for future conflicts. I mean, the Royal Navy is planning to use Dragonfire on its warships starting in 2027, offering protection against high-speed aerial threats. Military leaders envision Dragonfire being fitted to ground vehicles, maybe the one we just talked about, and aircraft within the next decade.
The Toyota Hilux is back.
Yeah, they're going to be added onto the Toyota Hilux eventually as a as a more cost-effective option.
So you said 10 pounds a shot.
10 pounds a shot. It's reusable.
Fitted within the decade. I mean, that is some
2027. You said
tantalizing news.
In the next couple of years. That's huge.
Tantalizing news because 10.
Did you just say that?
I'm impressed. That's a good one.
With enough precision to hit that tiny coin, able to be deployed and land in the air, invisible, silent, fast as light, and 3,000 degrees Celsius worth of heat damage happening here.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that is going to fuel Greg's nightmares and also become a weapon of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, but this project is a collaboration, which comes with all of the data sharing, the P&O, all of those problems. The challenge to decrease size and weight and increase output in order to make these on all sorts of other vehicles, to make these airborne. This means that design is going to be the most important to me, but not just design with a very solid change, integration, testing, all those things linked in, like an integrated design process is what this is going to call for.
I think your solution is a good one. I think you also touched on what I think is the number one problem, and that is cost scaling for widespread deployment. I mean, you were talking about increasing output, et cetera, but I mean, sure, it's 10 pounds a shot, but what about the infrastructure that has to come with it? Retrofitting ships, retrofitting vehicles, aircraft.
Toyota Hiluxes. Yeah.
Retrofitting those Hiluxes, you got it. Yeah. Keeping it cost effective and scalable is not trivial. I mean, yeah, you've got a great weapon, but you've got to make everything, the infrastructure, line up with it. So you've got to make the numbers work on this one, not just the tech, which is £10 a shot, which is great, fantastic. But until you add the bill for all of the toys that you're going to need to mount it on, that's the defense equivalent of a kind of a free Wi-Fi with a £10 coffee, if you ask me.
You mentioned toys. It does sound like, I mean, this is something that's being developed for Britain right now, right? So are the British getting toys that we don't have over here yet in the US? Because, I mean, that's not cool. Or are there other companies that are even farther along in the development of some of these laser weapons, and we just, haven't heard about all of them? Either way, we've got to look at the fact that the infrastructure integration that you're talking about, Andrew, is not possible until the design is nailed down. That design has to plan ahead for the integration. You got to plan for those mounting challenges, plan for the power integration, all of that. I think you've got to still say integration is important, but design is my number one.
True, but let's not forget, the smaller, the lighter, and the more powerful it gets, the more expensive those £10 shots are going to get. So actually, when it comes scaling to every warship and every aircraft, budget could actually scare the accountants on this one more than potentially the enemies. The tech's undeniably impressive. It really is. But ensuring it's viable at scale for multi-platform deployment without blowing defense budgets, that's the ultimate design challenge for me.
That does play hand in hand with the design challenge. I mean, you're right. You've got to have the design challenge. You've got to have the design play into all of these. If it literally has to integrate with the rest of the stuff, including your change management, your iterations, everything.
So I then come to the solution, which is design and change management. It's streamlining your design iterations, managing those modular configurations for naval or for land or for air platforms, whichever it is, and then integrating those change processes gives you that efficiency, which is going to drive your costs down. So DNCM, design and change, minimizes your disruptions, keeps the system adaptable, and hopefully keeps your costs down and doesn't scare off too many accountants, never mind the enemies.
Yeah, I'm going to go get a Wi-Fi and a coffee and a laser now.
$10. Pounds. Spirit Aerosystems is selling its Fiber Materials Incorporated business to Tex-Tech Industries for $165 million in cash. FMI, Fiber Materials Incorporated, specializes in high-temperature materials and composites used in NASA programs, of course, like Mars Curiosity and Orion, and defense systems like rocket motor nozzles and reentry vehicle components. The acquisition itself is actually bolstering Tex-Tech's portfolio, which really enhances its capabilities to serve the aerospace and defense market that is booming. There's booming, right? That works. Yeah.
It is booming.
Yeah, by offloading, and then for Spirit, though, by offloading FMI, Spirit is actually tightening its focus on aerostructures for planes, military platforms, leveraging its kind of core expertise in that aluminum and composite manufacturing. There are around 400 FMI engineers and production staff that are going to be transitioning from Tex-Tech or to Tex-Tech from Spirit, which hopefully ensures some continuity. I know there's a lot of moving pieces when that happens, so hopefully that move is going well for everyone. But still, I think it'll be.
I don't think Bryan can disagree with me for 1 second over my argument here. I really don't. I think maintaining engineering continuity in critical programs is going to be the one. FMI it's not just another company. It's the brains behind, NASA's Mars missions and defense systems. So keeping that institutional knowledge that's been built up and keeping it intact during the transition is going to be a huge challenge. So you can't just hand over, a rocket motor nozzle expertise that like it's a set of keys. So this isn't kind of a used car sale, so to speak. It's rocket science. So I thought I'd get that one in there. You like that?
Yeah,
you're nice lost for words.
Nice pun. I'm at a loss for words, and you're right. I mean, all that's important, but honestly, when we look at the sale of a company, there's a lot that comes into play. The people, the knowledge transfer, those people that stay, those that change, integrating all of this, all the workflows, all the people into a new company or keeping the infrastructures between these two kind of divisions siloed. The software integrations, the HR challenges, the engineering integrations, PLM systems, and that's what I think could be the most interesting here, is that sometimes when you have companies that are merged together, the PLM software is going to change, and that is an undertaking. That is a huge undertaking.
So it's the PLM software change that's the biggest challenge.
When you're talking about sales of a company, it's so much bigger than people think.
You're not wrong if it happens, but switching PLM systems mid-project, that's how you end up re-engineering a Mars rover because someone lost a CAD file. Let's not do the kind of cosmic hide and seek on this one with engineering data. I think I'm not sure on that.
We have seen this happen time and time again with various companies and mergers and things happening. When companies get sold or merged, they either try to migrate projects into new PLM software that's used by the rest of the organization, or they have to set up and have concurrent systems and servers keeping each project on its own PLM system, which is something that also even happens inside the same company. There's one large aerospace company I used to work with that had each plane on a different PLM system spanning decades worth of technology differences. So it's actually figuring out that infrastructure and what you're going to do is a huge challenge, and it comes at no small cost.
So I think you have to just take it right back to the start, don't you? Which is going to be requirements traceability, making sure you've got that seamless handover of all your engineering data, your requirements, your workflows to prevent your knowledge gaps due to the transition. So and that requirements traceability, when we implement, it just ties the whole program needs, it grounds it, it puts that as the foundation, making sure that nothing critical gets lost.
Yeah, getting stuff lost is usually bad.
And this, I would definitely overlay AI in that one. I mean, seriously, because you've got so many requirements coming in, and relying on the humans to gather it all and pull it all together. AI tools can really capture these tacit engineering knowledge through natural language processing, context analysis, and then during the transition, AI will make sure the teams have searchable, accessible insights into past decisions, program critical data, et cetera, all through kind of a widget, a co-pilot, something like that.
I like it. South Korea has revealed the air-to-ship guided missile 2, which is capable of hitting targets over 300 kilometers away at Mach 2.5, which is around 3,000 kilometers an hour, I think it is. That's crazy fast. Features you can see it here, but a ducted ramjet engine, a modular design for versatile missions, and dual radar electro-optical seeker for precision.
We got some competition for Weapon of the Week, haven't we, really?
Yeah. Flight tests are beginning in 2025, so next year. I can't believe that's less than 6 weeks away at this point. Deployment target in 2026 to 2035, I believe it is, backed by a $420 million budget. Now, this missile is boosting South Korea's FA-50 and KF-21 fighters, which is huge, but it's a cornerstone, right, of South Korea's Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation Plan, which does target North Korea, leadership critical facilities to deter nuclear aggression. I mean, I don't know. I think this could be a good thing to have, but could also attract buyers like Poland and the Philippines, which we know and we've talked about in recent shows, how much is going off in Poland and the Philippines, which expands, of course, South Korea's defense market influence. There's a clear message going on.
You're looking at something super fast that for those of us who don't understand kilometers, that's, I think, about 1,860 miles per hour. That's fast. That's fast.
Yeah.
With a range of about 186 miles. Capable of being launched from high and low altitude with that ducted ramjet propulsion system, with that modular design, with the radar, the electro-optical seekers. You're right. Competition for Weapon of the Week. It's also, I think, was unveiled, even though it's not yet in mass production, it was unveiled as a threat deterrent to North Korea. It's going to cost more than, say 10 pounds a shot, but it might just do the trick. But the thing is, having this design is one thing, making it is a whole nother. Test flights are next year. The project is going to be happening for the next decade. and somebody's
I'm
like,
a little worried about that 2035 thing. I mean, that is a long way away, and they've got to speed it up. And that kind of speaks to also what I think the biggest challenge is going to be, which is manufacturing scalability and supply chain resilience. Again, you're developing a missile that flies at Mach 2.5 and hits precision targets, whilst impressive, scaling production for a decade-long project under potential regional tensions and export demand. That's the real battle for me.
Hmm.
I mean, this is a design that was driven by need. It was one of those that's driven by conflict, driven by war, right? So subsonic missiles are intercepted too frequently. North Korea has been modernizing their land-based air defense systems for a while now. But in order for this whole process, like for once, this missile's developed, there are other systems that are outdated. So I think one big challenge is going to be integrating the new tech into the old infrastructure, as well as driving for those updates of the old stuff. So not just making it, also integration. I mean, there are multiple challenges to make sure this is a success.
Yeah, but I think those logistics teams trying to keep those parts flowing for a decade. That is a whole other battlefield. Trust me, missiles don't work when supply chain spreadsheets are out of date. So,
I mean, this is a classic case of how every section of the project plan is important. I guess that's why they call it the product lifecycle management. You're right. Nothing happens without supplies. You've got to take this to the next level. Nothing happens downstream when the supply chain isn't linked and monitored correctly into manufacturing, and when that isn't planned correctly with integrated into your systems and deployment. So the whole thing has to just be a nice flowing machine.
Yep. So we agree. Supply chain management integration, isn't it? It's getting all those material requirements linked up, preventing your bottlenecks. AI is great in supply chain. I've got to say, using your predictive analytics to anticipate disruptions and then realign your production with demand over a decade-long program. That's the big one. So good for AI and supply chain management.
Yeah.
Am I doing the calculation correctly? Is it 6 minutes? I was trying to figure that out. I mean, 6 minutes to go 300 kilometers. That's fast.
Yeah.
That is fast.
I mean, that's London to York, right?
It's almost as fast as like 1,800 miles per hour.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that works too. DSS Young Czech arms manufacturer has unveiled the PZD MK24 light machine gun, which was, of course, created to design or to rival Belgium's FN Evolus in portability and in performance. It's 30% lighter than typical light machine guns, of course, giving extra mobility for anyone who's in the field or played Call of Duty knows what mobility can do for you. Also available with 14-inch and 16-inch barrels, boast an effective range of 600 meters and a maximum reach of 1,200 meters, perfect for close and range combat. Quick change barrel, long stroke piston mechanism, adjustable gas regulator, free floating. It's a Picatinny rail for better heat dissipation. There's a lot of things going on for those who are very specific on this and know the particulars. There's a lot going on here, so I'm kind of excited to see it.
Balancing innovation with reliability in a soldier-focused system, that's the big one for me. Lightweight and compact are great, and they're great selling points, but soldiers are going to need weapons that they can really bet their lives on, aren't they? Durability, reliability under stress, and ease of maintenance in harsh conditions are going to make or break that one.
That's a fantastic point. You've got to make sure that it's soldier focused, it's going to work. And I think the biggest challenge is slightly different, though. So you've got a new light machine gun ready to compete for the market share. It was designed to, they're hoping this becomes the standard for light machine guns. The design has combined traditional machine gun characteristics with the lightness of an AR. It's got, the minimized recoil. It's a lot lighter. It's got a lot of cool optics and features on it, a great range. But I think you've got to enter the market with a bang in order to become that new standard for light machine guns. So this means they've figured out design. They've, I think, figured out the quality control, and now they've got to make sure the marketing is on par and then get ready to make a whole lot of these things.
Yeah, making a whole lot is, scaling up's important, but if it doesn't work when it gets there, what's the whole point? Like machine gun that's heavy on downtime isn't exactly the dream soldier's dream.
I mean, you want it to work, which is a fantastic. It's got to happen. I want it to
Dream
work and to
soldier's
be
dream.
made, and to be a lot of them. I think we're both right. Like once they've gotten all the MESMOM systems in place, looking at supply chain, which we've also talked about a lot, and the quality, like you just talked about. But to make this a success, you're going to have to make sure that you can make enough of them for them to be the standard.
How can I disagree with MESMOM when you bring it in? But
It's the way to Andrew's heart. Way to his heart.
I got to. I think it's got to be product validation simulation to make sure rigorous testing of durability, reliability, and performance in real world scenarios for me, because you've got to have confidence in that lightweight backpack new machine gun for those real world scenarios. So virtual simulations, they model extreme conditions while physical validation tests ensure the weapon's design and components meet the highest standards before scaling. So PVNS for me, AI overlaid in there will analyze your test data. It'll predict your failure points across manufacturing batches. It'll speed up the identification of design or material flaws and make sure that every unit is produced meets the reliability standards without delays in scalability.
Yeah. It's true. Antimony, a chemical element which is vital for military and tech applications, saw prices soar over 200% this year after China has restricted some exports. So there's people that are doing things about it. Lockheed Martin, Military Metals Corps, and Nucor are all seizing the moment with high-grade assets, including one of Europe's largest antimony deposits. As tensions are rising with China, securing these rare earth metals is becoming more urgent, especially with defense and heavy industry at the forefront needing this rare metal. So America is also gearing up for rare earth evolution, fewer imports, more independence, and companies like these. We're seeing a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of increased defense spending after the recent election, and I don't know. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of interesting things happening here, which is everything in modern society revolves around rare earth materials. I mean, the phones we carry around, the cars we drive. I mean, so much of this has this stuff that needs these, right? So finding a way to get more of them outside of a monopolized mining area is crucial. Like that is going to be a game changer all over the place here.
Yeah, so I think I agree, because you've got to build a resilient supply chain for these. It's not just about mining. It's not just about acquiring these metal. It's about creating a supply chain that can withstand the geo kind of political pressures to make sure you've got steady production and meet rising defense demand at that. You can't build an F-35 or armor piercing rounds if your rare earths are stuck on a cargo ship waiting for a tariff dispute to clear. So it's all about that supply chain piece.
I mean, you're right. Once you've got them delivered, then you need to make stuff with them, but you can't make stuff with them until you've got them there. So I think the biggest one is when we're looking at finding new places to mine these, new ways to get any of the rare earth materials, it's going to have to look at how you're distributing them, how you're getting them out before you can even start scaling, which of course is critical.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if that supply chain gets choked by geopolitics, you're just going to be stuck with those, high quality rocks and nowhere to put them, aren't you, at the end of the day? So what are we going to do about it?
If only we knew ways to try to make supply chain management happen.
Yeah. I think supply chain management integration, as we know, integrating across the product lifecycle. AI comes in. I think we've already talked about AI in the show anyway, in terms of supply chain.
No, not yet. First time.
Just a couple of times.
first time around, yeah. So AI is going to analyze your global supply risks. It's going to predict your disruptions. It's going to suggest alternate sourcing strategies as well, which I love about it. It'll look at your whole supplier network, bring that AI tool in, and it'll find you who's supplying, who's up to date, who's got their cargo logistics running properly.
And you probably need to use the rare earth materials to help make the systems the AI is running on for your supply chain.
Oh, well, then you're really in a mess.
It's true. Northrop Grumman's space logistics subsidiary is developing the Mission Robotic Vehicle, MRV. Look at that. To extend satellite lifespans, repair orbital equipment, and tackle space debris in geostationary orbit. I feel like this is a question a lot of people have. We're launching a lot of space up, but how are we going to clean it up? What are we going to do to maintain the stuff up there? And this is a solution to that. Equipped with robotic arms from the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. What? Who am I? Laboratory. The MRV can perform inspections, reposition satellites, and attach propulsion jetpacks called mission extension pods. Now, these mission extension pods provide an extra 6 years of operational life to satellites without requiring a full service vehicle. Smaller, cheaper than previous MEPs and MEVs. The Intelsat and Optus have already signed on with 3 satellites servicing missions booked before the MRV's launch. And the MRV, and I mentioned this earlier, targets a growing demand. There's 500 satellites in geostationary orbit face end-of-life challenges annually. In an annual basis. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Northrop is anticipating this to be big. And more contracts.
You're right. We need that. This is big time because it's getting busy up there. 500 a year. I did not realize that. That's crazy, isn't it? But first thing for me is operational reliability for extreme conditions. You know, what is it? 22,500 miles out above Earth, geostationary orbit is not just tough, it's brutal up there. I mean, you've got robotic arms, you've got jetpacks, you've got servicing systems that are going to need to work perfectly in the harshest of conditions, or you're dead on arrival with that mission. So imagine kind of explaining to your Intelsat that their satellite new jetpack just got stuck because a robotic arm had stage fright. So it's not a good look in space.
I mean, these things, first off, I don't know, I'll probably date myself here, but I used to play with a thing as a kid called the Armatron, which was like a really cool version of this that you controlled. It was
way before my time.
Yeah, way before your time. But in other words, these things are cool. And the fact that it's passed the thermal vacuum testing already, and the fact that the use case is literally driven by the need to extend the life of satellites. So I think that this robotic payload is promising to transform satellite operations. It's going to help reduce costs for satellite operators. It's going to enable capabilities well beyond what we currently have today. So it's a versatile solution serving the space market, which includes the satellite repair, the repositioning, the debris removal. Mm-hmm. I think that making these is going to be a huge challenge. They're not simple to make. These things look kind of complicated. And then figuring out how to integrate that with the actual use cases and making sure that works with what you're trying to do up in space is a huge design challenge too, which I think they've designed them, it looks like, well already. But I think we're going to have to figure out how to do this, how to actually make them to the correct quality and scale and all of that.
So it's manufacturing, it's design, it's quality, it's scale. So it's basically everything.
It's PLM.
I mean, I get your point on scaling. I mean, it's exciting, but if that robot jams or it malfunctions mid-mission, those client contracts are going to scale back pretty quickly, in my opinion. So this isn't space for errors, Bryan. Literally, reliability.
No space for errors.
Reliability in geostationary orbit isn't negotiable. The MRV systems need to perform flawlessly under radiation. They've got vacuum conditions. They've got thermal extremes. Getting that right is the key to success before you even think about scalability.
I mean, a robot arm messing up in space is going to be hard to fix without another robot arm in space to fix it. So I'm still thinking that while quality is important, while testing is important, making something this complicated with this many moving parts, with having to function under all of these conditions, testing them out, making them at scale, I think that making them at scale area is going to be the hardest struggle of all of it.
Let's just stick with making them. So before launch, every system, robotic arms, MEPs, propulsion, servicing workflows, everyone is going to need a rigorous virtual and physical testing. So I think we can agree on that. Yeah. So product validation and simulation is going to be the number one solution for me. Making sure that these components are validated for extreme space conditions to avoid any of those mission failures. And AI plays to that every time by running simulations. It mimics geostationary conditions. It identifies potential failure points and improves your designs pre-launch.
That's crazy. Bryan, do you remember who distributed the Armatron?
No, but I still have one in my parents' basement, I think.
I'll go ahead and age myself. It was Radio Shack. For those guys that remember Radio Shack.
Oh yeah.
It's and the death
Circuit City, Radio Shack, all that stuff. Yeah.
Now, does this mean you had one of these too, or you just looked it up right now to see that it existed?
So I looked it up to see that it existed because I didn't.
And then you ordered one off of Amazon right now.
But then I remembered. I was like, oh, Radio Shack, and I remember the good old days. I balanced both of them pretty well. Japan's FAST project, which stands for Fusion Advanced Superconducting Tokamak project, is really aiming to achieve practical fusion power generation by the 2030s. Collaboration includes top institutions like the University of Tokyo, Kyoto Fusioneering, and international partners like the UK, US, and Canada. Now, the project itself is developing a system to generate sustained deuterium tritium plasma reactions, which I don't even know exactly what I'm saying there, but is going to be tackling challenges like energy conversion, tritium fuel cycling, etc. There's a lot going on here. It's good.
Are you currently under attack by a flock of birds or something?
I think so. Like, it sounds like they're coming for me. I don't know. They're like, oh, Greg's being loud, so let's see if we can be louder.
So you just said fusion-based power by 2040?
2040. I mean, well, designed by 2025.
Yeah, but you said like the end of all this, or I think by the fusion
by
power
the 2030s,
by the 2030s, which means before 2040, we're going to have this happening, which is not terribly far away. There's tech challenges, design challenges, collab challenges across 4 countries, starting out in the conceptual design phase with the plan of having these completed, like what you said, 2025. I mean, there's a lot of work to get done to start that design completion, to get the design completed in basically less than a year. They have so many things to look at: evaluating environments, tech, funding, regulations, policy, detailed design, feasibility. Where should the main focus be? Everywhere.
Really?
Everywhere.
Good answer.
Everything.
Good answer.
Everywhere. Everything.
Everywhere.
That's like saying your favorite pizza topping is all of them.
As long as pineapple's included.
Commit to something, buddy. Come on.
No.
You can't just order the whole menu. Transitioning from conceptual design to practical implementation, the leap from conceptual design to practical implementation, conceptual design to engineering, to engineering a fusion reactor that actually works is massive. I got to say, it's not just about getting the physics right. It's about solving practical challenges like material durability. You've got energy extraction. You've got cost scalability. So fusion might be kind of limitless energy, but unlimited design meetings. That's the real power drain for me.
I mean, in addition to everything that I just said was important and what they're trying to do, there's also the parallel work of accelerating tech development in engineering design, the site selecting, the regulatory efforts, the collabs with all the company partners. And let's just keep in mind here that currently Andrew lost power. And currently, speaking of power, limitless power generation, but no company has figured out a way to harness the energy transport for sustained external use, for integrating it all together in a commercially viable fusion power plant. There's no experimental device worldwide that is capable of creating the fusion environment with the fixed neutron flux and relevant thermal loads. But FAST is planning to do this, which means you want me to pick what I think is the most important? Innovation. Innovation is the key.
Yeah, you kind of described a whole buffet where every dish needs to cook at the same time, but the kitchen doesn't even have electricity yet. That's why my challenge, I think, wins, because unless we can transition from conceptual brilliance to functional reality, you're just innovating in a vacuum. And spoiler, vacuums don't generate power either. So innovation's got to is vital, no doubt about it, but it's only as good as a practical execution. So this big promise relies on turning your concept into a working reactor. So without tackling the material durability, your energy capture, your tritium cycling, etc., head on, this won't even get the proof of concept stage, let alone commercialization.
There is so much that has to be cooked right for this buffet to be a success. The hugest hurdle, I'm sticking with it, the hugest hurdle is the innovation of not just the technology, but the whole process of how to get there. So yeah, everything. This is my everything bagel answer, but in many ways, because you are reinventing the wheel. No, you're kind of making the wheel for the first time too, right? So all of that really goes back to, if you have to look at one area to really focus on in the whole process that we've described, I think it's going to be just like the design.
Yeah, I'm with you. It is. It's design and change. It's design, managing those iterations from concept design through engineering feasibility is the crux of it, isn't it? Really, you're going to need some predictive models, AI coming in. Make sure that each step aligns with regulated material and technological realities, reducing those delays in transition to practical implementation. So it is a big one. It's huge.
It's huge. And when this happens, it's going to literally be a game changer. I mean, it's...
I haven't used that word enough on this show.
I don't think you've used it at all today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Well, now you have. Now you've ruined everything I've just tried to say. Thanks. Speaking of thanks, everybody, it's Thanksgiving week. Thanks for joining us. Find something to be thankful for and have a great Thanksgiving. We're thankful that Greg was not taken away by the flock of birds that were attacking him, and now are strangely silent.
I think he's cooking his turkey early.
Yes, will be. I'm gonna go.
He's using
flame grilled turkey.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it might have some holes in it.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your week.
Bye.